Hello friends, today I'm going to share with you the unbelievable real-life story of a young woman whose life was turned upside down. Sarah was only 30 years old. To everyone who knew her, she was the picture of health, energetic, passionate, and full of life. She loved her job as a school teacher, loved standing in front of her students with a bright smile, and loved making every day in the classroom exciting. Her colleagues admired her dedication, and her students adored her. From the outside, everything in her life looked perfect. But inside her body, something strange was happening, something she couldn't explain. It began quietly, almost unnoticeably. A small cough, dry at first, just a tickle in her throat. She brushed it off, telling herself it was just a seasonal change or maybe the classroom dust. But days passed, and the cough refused to leave. Weeks went by, and instead of improving, the cough grew deeper, harsher, and more persistent. At night, things became worse. Sarah would go to bed tired, but hopeful for rest, only to wake up hours later drenched in sweat. The sheets clung to her body, her pillow soaked. She would sit up, breathless, heart pounding, wiping her forehead again and again, whispering to herself, "Why is this happening? Maybe I'm just stressed," but no explanation seemed to make sense. Her mornings became heavier. She noticed she was losing weight, and fast. Not a few pounds, but enough that her clothes hung loose. Her wrists seemed thinner, her face sharper. People began to compliment her, saying, "You look slimmer." But Sarah knew this wasn't healthy. She hadn't changed her diet, hadn't started any exercise. The weight loss felt unnatural, frightening even. Her energy began to disappear. Simple tasks, climbing stairs, carrying books, standing in class felt like uphill battles. She often sat at her desk after lessons, trying to catch her breath, her chest aching from the constant cough. She told herself again and again, "I'm young, I can handle this. It's nothing." But deep inside, fear was building. Her family started to notice. Her mother looked at her pale skin and tired eyes and asked gently, "Sarah, are you all right? You look so weak these days." But Sarah forced a smile and replied, "I'm fine, just tired from work." She didn't want to worry anyone. She didn't want to admit, even to herself, that something was terribly wrong. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a normal morning in the classroom. Sarah was explaining a lesson, her voice echoing in the room. Suddenly, her chest tightened. She coughed once, twice, then again harder, deeper. The cough wouldn't stop. Her students watched in shock as their teacher bent forward, gasping, her body shaking with every cough. Finally, the fit slowed, and Sarah pulled out a tissue to cover her mouth. But when she looked at it, her hands trembled. The tissue wasn't just damp, it was stained with streaks of red blood. The room spun. Her students' voices faded. Sarah stared at the tissue, heart racing, fear gripping her entire body. This was no longer something she could ignore. Something dangerous, something hidden, was inside her. For the first time, Sarah realized this was not ordinary. Something was silently destroying her from within. After that terrifying day in the classroom, Sarah couldn't pretend anymore. The sight of blood in her tissue haunted her mind. Every time she coughed, she remembered the red stains. That night, she lay in bed unable to sleep, tossing and turning, her body weak, her chest heavy. Her mind whispered the questions she was too afraid to ask out loud. What if this is something serious? What if it never goes away? What if it's too late? The next morning, her family insisted on taking her to the hospital. Sarah didn't argue this time. She knew she couldn't fight this alone. At the hospital, doctors listened carefully as she described her symptoms: the endless cough, the night sweats, the unexplained weight loss, the constant fatigue, and the terrifying moment when blood appeared. The doctor's expression grew serious. He immediately ordered tests of blood work, chest x-rays, and a sputum test. Sarah sat in the waiting area, her heart racing with every passing minute. She looked around at the other patients, each one with their own worries, and wondered, what if I'm the one with something worse? When the x-ray was taken, Sarah could see the shadow of her own lungs on the screen. There were cloudy patches, strange marks that she didn't understand. The technician avoided her eyes, only saying softly, "The doctor will explain everything." That silence made her even more anxious. Hours felt like days. Finally, the doctor returned with the results. He sat down across from Sarah and her mother, his voice calm but firm. "Sarah," he said, "the tests show that your lungs are infected. You have tuberculosis." The word struck her like thunder. Tuberculosis. She blinked in disbelief. In her mind, TB was an old disease, something from history books, something poor people in faraway villages might suffer from. But her, a 30-year-old teacher, living in the city, eating well, working hard, how could this be possible? Her mother gasped, her eyes filling with tears. Sarah felt her chest tighten, her breath short. The room seemed smaller, the walls closer. She whispered, almost to herself, "TB, but I thought that doesn't happen anymore." The doctor leaned forward, his tone serious but reassuring. Tuberculosis is still one of the most common infectious diseases in the world. It spreads silently through the air when someone with TB coughs or sneezes. Anyone can get it. Young or old, rich or poor, it doesn't matter. The symptoms: you had the persistent cough, the night sweats, the weight loss, the blood were all classic warning signs. You ignored them because they started slowly, but now your body is warning you. Sarah felt her throat tighten, her eyes stinging with tears. She thought about her students, her colleagues, her family. Had she put them at risk? Would they judge her, whisper about her, avoid her out of fear? Shame and fear mixed inside her chest like a storm. The doctor seemed to read her thoughts. "Listen carefully, Sarah. Yes, TB is dangerous if untreated. It can destroy your lungs, weaken your body, and in some cases, spread beyond the lungs. But you are not alone, and this is not the end. TB can be cured completely. The treatment is long and sometimes difficult, but if you follow it strictly, you will recover. You will live a normal, healthy life again." Her mother held her hand tightly, whispering, "You are strong. Sarah, we will fight this together." In that moment, Sarah's fear began to transform. She was still terrified, still shocked, but deep inside, a spark of determination flickered. She realized she had two choices: to give up and let the disease take control, or to fight with everything she had. And Sarah decided she would fight. The first few days after Sarah's diagnosis felt unreal. She would wake up in the morning and ask herself, "Do I really have TB? Is this my life now?" Her mind replayed the doctor's words again and again. Tuberculosis can be cured, but only if you follow treatment strictly. Her doctor explained the plan: a combination of strong medicines to be taken daily for at least 6 months. Missing even a single dose could make the bacteria resistant, turning treatment into a nightmare. Sarah felt overwhelmed. 6 months, she thought. How will I survive this? How will I go to work? What will people say if they know? But her mother reminded her, your life is more important than your fear. You can't teach your students if you don't take care of yourself first. Those words gave Sarah strength. She made up her mind to follow every instruction carefully, no matter how hard it became. The struggle with treatment. The first weeks of medication were the hardest. The pills were large, their taste bitter. Sometimes they upset her stomach. Sometimes they made her dizzy. She felt weaker before she felt stronger. There were nights when she cried silently, holding her chest, asking God why she had to go through this. But every time she wanted to give up, she remembered the blood she had coughed up in class, the fear in her mother's eyes, the students who prayed for her recovery. She told herself, if I stop now, this disease wins. If I continue, I win. She began to write in a diary, noting down every symptom, every pill, every change in her body. Slowly, she saw progress. The night sweats reduced. The fever didn't come as often. Her cough became lighter. Her appetite slowly returned. Her weight stabilized. Lifestyle changes that saved her. Sarah realized recovery was not just about medicine, it was about transforming her entire lifestyle. Nutrition. She started eating healthier meals. Lentils, vegetables, fruits, eggs, and milk became her daily fuel. Her mother prepared soups rich in protein and iron to rebuild her strength. Rest. Instead of working late nights, Sarah forced herself to rest. Sleep became her best medicine. Fresh air and exercise every evening. When she had enough energy, she walked slowly in the garden, breathing fresh air, letting her lungs heal. Stress control. She practiced prayer, meditation, and deep breathing to calm her racing mind. Precautions. She wore a mask to protect others, covered her mouth when coughing, and kept her windows open to let sunlight and fresh air into her room. Each step gave her more confidence that she was not a victim, she was a fighter. The transformation. By the third month, Sarah looked into the mirror and saw hope in her own eyes again. The pale, weak girl who once coughed through the night was slowly being replaced by a stronger, healthier version of herself. Her skin glowed, her smile returned, and her laughter filled the house once more. Her students noticed the difference too. When she returned to the classroom, still a bit thin but full of energy, the children clapped for her. They whispered, "Miss Sarah is back. She is healthy again." That moment filled her heart with joy. But Sarah didn't just come back, she came back with a mission. She began to share her story openly. Breaking the stigma around TB, she told her students, colleagues, and neighbors that TB is not a curse, not the end of life, but a challenge that can be overcome with treatment and support. The lesson for everyone. Sarah's journey is proof that tuberculosis is still among us, silent and dangerous, but also curable. Her story carries powerful lessons. Don't ignore symptoms like a persistent cough, night sweats, fever, weight loss, or coughing blood. Early diagnosis saves lives. Simple tests can detect TB before it spreads. Treatment requires discipline. Never skip medicines. Support from family, good nutrition, rest, and a positive mindset are just as important as pills. TB is not a disease of the past, it's a reality today. But it doesn't have to be a death sentence. By the end of her journey, Sarah not only regained her health, but also discovered a new purpose: to inspire others to never give up. She proved that even in the darkest times, courage and discipline can bring light. Her voice now carries hope. Her story spreads awareness. And her survival is a reminder that life is fragile but also incredibly strong. Sarah once thought TB would end her story. Instead, it became the chapter that gave her life new meaning.